Uncensored starts right now. And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. After nearly 10 months, WNBA star Brittney Griner is back in the USA. The Russian government agreed to release Griner in exchange for a convicted arms dealer, and many of you know that name now, Victor Bout, who was given the name the Merchant of Death. Welcome to The Factor Uncensored. We start today with the show talking about the controversy surrounding Griner's release. Someone on Capitol Hill critical of the move is calling it a gift to Vladimir Putin. Mayor Sylvester Turner says it gives him hope.
After being, confined, jailed for 294 days with a 9-year sentence, it didn't seem like it was going to happen anytime soon, but it did happen. So very elated, happy, for her, happy for her family. And it does, what it does say to me is that in the midst of global crisis, especially between Russia and the United States, that some positive things can still happen. So, and I'm elated and happy, thrilled for her release, but also hopeful and prayerful for the release of Paul Whelan, because it's not just one and not the other, but it's both. So she's released, and I'm hoping that the same voices that raised their voices for the release of Brittney Griner will continue to raise their voices for the release of Paul Whelan.
And our guests are here on The Factor Uncensored to talk about this. Judge Dolores, now judge-elect. So you knew Brittney Griner. To hear this release, what are your thoughts about that? How do you feel about it?
I can tell you there was tears of joy this morning. I remember my father calling me and all my friends just really excited about the news. I'm just so happy she's home, and like Mayor Sylvester Turner said, I feel like there's hope. I'm glad that she's home. I'm glad everyone can feel her light back here in the States again.
And congratulations,
Thank
Judge Dolores Lozano, Justice of the Peace here in Harris County, elect. So congratulations. Jolanda, your thoughts about this?
Well, I'm glad it happened. People always find negative things to say. I think you need to be able to walk in the shoes of other people. And if it was your loved one over there, would you want for them to stay locked up in Russia, the arch nemesis of the United States, because you don't approve of the person that they were exchanged for, especially since Russia actually chose Brittney because they knew she was important here in order to get, Bout. So I'm excited. I followed Brittney when she was at Nimitz High School. I watched those games. I know her coach, or her former coach, Kim Mulkey. I went to Baylor and watched her play at Baylor when she was there. One game in particular I remember in the NCAA tournament was Baylor and PV. So Brittney's just a good person, and for them to arrest her and give her 9 years for having cartridges of weed doesn't make any sense to me, but I think the right result happened, and I'm hopeful that Russia will negotiate for freeing Whelan and other people that they have over there.
Charles Adams, you are our expert here, former attorney, well, current attorney. You didn't lose your license.
No, sir, not yet.
Former police officer, former judge, attorney, and talk show host. What did it take us to get here, Charles? Well,
it took us probably poor diplomacy from the Biden administration. I think the right is screaming foul and going extreme on one side, and the left pretending that he did a great job. Putin would have traded Brittney for the Merchant of Death back in March, right? But the Biden administration was trying to get more. They were trying to free Mr. Whelan. No one's talking about Mark Fogel, the school teacher that got 14 years for just a little bit of the flour. He's not famous. He's not important. Nobody cares. So I think this was a huge failure by the Biden administration because she stayed way too long, right? And the media on the left is ignoring it. But the right, who has somehow decided to embrace the evil that is Vladimir Putin over Ukraine and the fact that Biden won, is screaming foul the other way. And the truth is, thank God she's coming home. Let's focus on freeing some more Americans, and let's talk about all the Americans in America who are rotting in prison. It's still a felony to have those same cartridges here in Harris County. You're looking at 10 years if you have the same amount. So let's free all the Americans locked up for marijuana. Let's expect more accountability from Biden, and let's expect more accountability from those on the right who are telling lies.
All right, Angela Box, let's hear from you, your thoughts about this. I talked to you earlier. I know your thoughts.
Yeah, so we exchanged a woke pothead for a literal terrorist, okay? This is shades of Bo Bergdahl all over again. Never forget the hashtag first black president, Barack Obama, exchanged a little leftist deserter for 5 Taliban members and went up on the Rose Garden and said how great this was. This is a joke. Brittney Griner is either arrogant or dumb to not use Google when she went to Russia to see what the drug laws were there. And it just, to me, it speaks of an arrogance and elitism that a lot of leftists have. And she's certainly a valued member of 2 groups, black and LGBT. She thought nothing would happen to her. She was wrong.
All right, Briscoe Cain, you had an interesting message that you posted on Twitter today. You said this is the hero that we have now in America. Your thoughts, sir?
Look, yes, a 9-year sentence for pot in Russia is ridiculous. A 9-year sentence for pot in Harris County is ridiculous. I'm glad an American got released. But sadly, I think the American people are the ones who got smoked in the deal. Boot's a bad guy. Like, this is the warlord of warlords, okay? I mean, not only is he arming West Africa in the 80s, the Taliban, all of our enemies, and coming after Americans, we got a bad deal in the trade.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We're continuing our conversation about Brittney Griner being released today. So, Jolanda, you heard some things that you didn't feel comfortable with. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of Republicans smarting because they didn't take the House and take the Senate. Now they're projecting onto Brittney, which is sad. So I'm trying to figure out, it's a bad deal because we got Brittney out, or we didn't get enough. But if we take what Charles said is true, that, you know, it took too long, he should have freed her before. If he was trying to get Whelan out, why are you complaining about that, right? So I hate it when they politicize things like this, right? And the sound bites, I know that's what people are looking for, and smoking pot and all these things. At the end of the day, this is a woman who was an athlete, and she was made a political pawn. Why Angela's talking about black people and gay people, I don't know. She's neither. I'm both. What does that have to do with anything? So now you're telling me that whether we get you out has something to do with what your sexuality is, or what color you are?
No.
Like, it's just off the mark.
I said.
The Biden administration did exactly what they needed to do. They tried to get someone else out. Russia is hard-headed. All of us have friends. You can tell them stuff. You can lead a horse to water, and they didn't want to do anything.
Go ahead,
that's what they
So
want.
the reason I said that is because it shows the arrogance of someone like Brittney Griner, who doesn't do a simple Google search, because in this country, of course, the narrative is there are certain groups that are protected, there are certain groups that are not. Charles mentioned the teacher that went to jail for 14 years, but no one talks about him because he's not famous.
I just talked about him. I mean, really, Angela, Angela, you're trotting it out to be a racist, homophobic bigot. No, you absolutely are.
That's not what I'm
you're
saying.
using fear-mongering language to condemn a woman. We need to talk about ending our war on drugs.
No,
we need to talk about why people need to go. No, you literally came out and said, well, she's a lesbian and she's a black.
No,
and it's just stupid, and it's racist, and it's homophobic.
Okay,
Rein it in, Isaiah.
That is not what I...
You can't rein me in.
Okay, Charles, that is not fair to characterize what I said.
Completely fair.
I'm saying that there are certain people in this country who have more protection than other people in our dominant culture.
And they look like me and you.
No.
White heterosexual people.
Are you whining?
No, I'm not whining at all. I'm saying Brittney Griner literally hates this country. She has all the woke NBA people crying for her when literally these people can't stand this country. So I think it's ironic that she wants to come back to a country that she thinks is systemically racist.
Briscoe, let's hear from you.
The chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations.
By the way, Briscoe's a state representative. Go ahead.
Senator Melendez, Democrat, New Jersey, the chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations, said this was a disturbing decision. A Pentagon official came out today going, we think this guy's probably going to go back and do exactly what he was doing at the perfect time for an evil warlord named Vladimir Putin to have an arms dealer come back to Russia and help fight Americans and Ukrainians. It was a bad decision. It's that simple.
And I would like to applaud Briscoe. You know, we disagree on a lot of things, but there are so many people that have now embraced Putin because of the Ukraine, and he has been unflappable in his condemnation. Putin is probably the most evil man in the world and threatens the world, global safety, has murdered people all over the world. And I do think it was a bad deal, but I'm so happy that Brittney is free, right? She's a Houstonian. She is the best female basketball player in the history of the sport. And I think we should have had a better deal, or we should have got her out sooner. I think Biden is just failing this country across the board, but I think we can still applaud the fact that he achieved this goal, albeit late, while also being critical, but also being critical of the rhetoric on the right. We're just being divided so much by extremism.
If Trump was president, this never would have happened. It never would have
Let's hear
happened.
from Dolores really quick, who is Brittney's friend. Hearing this talk, your thoughts about this?
I do think it's not a race issue. It's not an LGBTQ issue. It's great to have Brittney back home. Yes, she's a black lesbian woman, but that doesn't take away from all that she's done for our country. I know her wife is happy for her to be home. We're happy.
It's not my
again,
point.
tears of joy. But you didn't have to say she was.
That wasn't my point at all.
But it didn't. But you always do that.
Okay,
but you always do that.
because I'm talking about what's going on in the dominant culture
Angela,
right
hold on.
now.
You're the dominant culture.
Hold on. Let's hear from Dolores. Go ahead, Dolores.
I mean, I was just saying that those remarks didn't have to be brought up because it didn't make your argument valid at all. So.
All right, go. Jolanda,
So
go ahead, 30 seconds.
what I'm saying is Brittney is a human. Everybody wants to backseat drive for the president. If you don't think he's doing a good job, run against him. Clearly the country rathered him than the alternative because we held on to stuff, and it's the first time since I believe FDR that we didn't lose people in the Senate. But my point is this: stop politicizing a deal that the president made. He was damned if he did, he was damned if he didn't. When he tried to get it, it wasn't taking long enough. Now he's done it. Now it took too long. And why didn't he try to get Whelan? Well, he did try to get Whelan. So I'm just sick and tired of doing things that are best for this country. I mean, the thought that they would want her to sit there because of who Russia wanted to trade her for is asinine.
Brittney Griner has been released back in the United States. And of course, we're talking to our guest, and we're going to continue our conversation. When you heard Angela, you know, many people saying, why did you have to bring up lesbianism or LGBTQ and that she's black? That's racist, that's homophobic. Your thoughts?
Because the reason I brought this up is because we have an administration, President Biden and this administration has made it very clear they are pushing certain issues, if you will, in our culture, wokeism in general. And I'm saying that what Charles was saying, that this Mark Fogel guy, no one even talks about him. Of course the sentence was too harsh. Of course it was. But Russia knew they could make an example out of Brittney Griner. And again, the fact that she gets on a plane, an international flight, and packs her weed, like that just, it blows me away.
All right,
that this was something that happened.
Charles, let's talk about how dangerous is this guy, Victor Bout, to the world, to the United States, and will he just go back to Russia and be free? Will they lock him up? What will happen to him?
They're certainly not going to lock him up. They'll immediately implement him to probably rapidly change the face of the Ukrainian conflict by getting more arms there. And you also have Syria and a number of other countries that are going to benefit from this evil arms dealer, right? And at the end of the day, I think, you know, to Angela's comments about lesbianism, and this is more fame privilege. Like, she is a famous athlete, and Mark Fogel, a white man who he's just a school teacher, he's going to die in prison. But the real conversations, I mean, Victor is free, and it's just going to happen, and our military is going to have to deal with it. The world is going to have to deal with it. But let's take this moment to talk about the war on drugs here in America and how we are continuing. It's a vehicle of oppression, mainly directed at people of color, but it's typically poor people that suffer the most of all races. And maybe we should step back, and our country as a whole should refocus on individual liberty, whether it's you want to buy drugs, or you want to buy sex, or you want to buy anything, as long as there's not a victim or someone being exploited, as long as someone's not being killed like fentanyl or crystallized methamphetamine. And let's maybe get our country out of everybody, because that's, at the end of the day, we send people to prison for the same stuff all the time.
All right, Briscoe, let's talk about Victor Bout. Do you think he's present danger to the United States once he was released? Do you think we will have problems with him again as a merchant of death and arms dealer?
This is a former intelligence officer in the Russian military after the fall. This is the baddest. At one point, he was the baddest guy on earth. Right. He's got friends in terrorist organizations throughout the world, Colombia, everywhere, all over our borders, with terrorists themselves. Of course he's going to be connected. He's got plenty of people that owe him. I think it's going to come back and bite us. I think Americans are going to die. And I'm concerned that we just gave up our bargaining chip to get other people. It was a bad decision. Obviously, we can't undo it. Let's find something to fix. And I think, of course, again, Charles is right as rain. While we're on the subject, yes, there are people rotting in jail cells here in America for things.
All right, Jolanda, were we wrong?
So no, we weren't wrong, and no one wants to talk about the white Trevor Reed who was freed before Brittney. They won't talk about that because they're acting like all we're doing is pandering for black people and for lesbians. But I actually want to defer to Dolores, who doesn't get on TV and just say crazy stuff, because she has some interesting observations about hearing about black people and gay people, and she's friends with Brittney.
Yeah, well,
so I'm actually, it doesn't matter. He got traded. We ain't talking about him. We're not talking about him. But we're not talking about him.
Dolores, go ahead, Dolores.
I just hope when we're having these conversations moving forward, we're not bringing race or somebody's sexual preference, because it just makes your argument.
Tell that to the Biden administration.
Well, Dolores, in fairness, well, Jolanda did the same thing that Angela did, but just directed it at white people. I mean, nobody should do it.
Trevor Reed, you brought up something. Trevor Reed is a white man who was freed by Biden. But nobody's talking about that.
Tell the dominant culture to stop doing it, and then I'll stop pointing out the hypocrisy of it.
All right, Dolores, wrap it up. We're out of time.
I think we just need to get to a point where we can all have discussions and talk about the issues that we need to fix together on the left and on the right. And I'm just really glad that Brittney's home. She gets to spend the holidays with her family. Yeah.
All right. We want to thank you all for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. Interesting conversation.